is Desperate Housewives, where they have made fun of women who breastfeed their children at ages that it would be considered inappropriate by cultural standards to breastfeed a child. And the reason why we construct this as inappropriate is because we frame it when a child gets to be old enough as sexual touch, or that it could be read as sexual, or it's sexualized. So in this sense, the boy is encouraged to distance himself from his mother. And this creates a conflict in the mind of the young boy. So he develops an Oedipal complex. Basically, the boy begins to see his father or other male figures as a rival to his mother's affection. But the boy realizes that other adult men are physically superior to him and will ultimately win in any type of duel. So the boy fears castration. So the boy buries his desire for his mom in the subconscious. And to help rectify this rupture, the boy turns to the father's identification to negotiate rivalry. Basically, it's the philosophy of, if you can't beat him, join him. So the boy ends up developing what's termed as a superego. And the superego is what makes boy children, according to Freud, focus on rivalry and defeating the competition. So one of the themes that we're going to discuss throughout this semester is how competition and the ability to excel in competition is typically conceived of as a masculine trait. People who are advocates of psychoanalysis would argue that's because boys develop very strong superegos. But obviously, it's not just boys who go through the phallic stage. Women also go through their own phallic stage. When they do this, it's called the Electra complex. It's the female version of the Oedipal complex. And what Freud posits is that girls feel upset because mom isn't as nurturing as she once was when the child was a baby. And also, boys and girls are comparing their genitalia, and girls look down, according to Freud, and notice that they don't have a penis, and they develop penis envy. And part of this penis envy is they start to blame their mother for not having a penis. So the way that the girl resolves this conflict of penis envy is by fantasizing about the father. And a lot of times this may not be like an explicitly sexual fantasy. You know, a lot of times little girls just act like they want a guy just like their daddy. So what happens is the young girl begins to realize that this fantasy about the father isn't culturally appropriate. So she begins to fear the loss of parental love, and she represses her incestuous desire. She realizes that she can't marry a man like dad or marry dad. So she has to repress this incestuous desire. And because she suppresses this, she develops a weak superego, which doesn't make her as capable as boys or men to deal with competition, or to deal with issues of envy. The next stage is the latency stage, which occurs from 6 to 11. And this is when little boys and little girls just do not think sexually of one another at all. They get cootie shots. Basically, sexual and aggressive fantasies are largely latent, repressed, and inactive. Boys and girls think one another are disgusting. But as we know, when little boys' bodies begin to develop and little girls begin to develop breast, things begin to change. So things start to change with puberty, which is the genital stage. The focus comes back to sex, and boys and girls try to free themselves from the parents' domination. So no longer are things going to be so focused on parents. Rather, boys and girls start to look at one another and become interested in one another. And they'll use their relationships with one another to rebel against the domination of their parents. So what I would like you to do now for an activity is to select 3 of the theories that you've learned about thus far and agree with the most. So take out your notes, take out the book, look at the theories that we've learned up until this point, and select the 3 that you think are the most compelling, whether it's sociobiology, biological theory, psychodynamics, whatever the case may be, maybe even psychoanalytics, which you've just learned about now in this lecture. And then on a sheet of paper, after you've selected the 3 most compelling theories in your mind, I want you to list each theory and note some of its defining characteristics. So if you were to select psychoanalytics as one of your theories, one of the characteristics that you might mention is that things that occur during a child's psychosexual development will impact them as an adult. You might also mention Oedipal complex or Electra complex, oral stage, anal stage, latency. These are some of the defining characteristics of the theory. Then after you have listed each of the theories and noted some of its defining characteristics, I want you to create your own theory, a hybrid theory that includes the best elements of the 3 theories that you just selected. Give your theory a unique name, and in 8 to 10 sentences, describe your theory. Your description should include explicit references to the concepts you've borrowed from the 3 theories you listed at the start of the activity. When you're done with this, I want you to go onto the discussion board of Beachboard and post your theory. The theory should be posted by the end of today, the day that this lecture is due, and you may be graded on your contribution. So start off the discussion on Beachboard, and if for some reason the Beachboard discussion board is not open, then I want you to print out your writing and bring it with you to the first in-class day, but try to get it up on Beachboard. This may be graded.